Poet Theo Dorgan was joined by 6 Poets Laureate to celebrate the 150th birthday of William Butler Yeats.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're very, very welcome to this very special event indeed. An event I think that would have astonished W.B. Yeats. I think he would have been astonished to see the health of poetry in our time. He would have been astonished to see a proud, if slightly battered republic with a poet as its president. And he would have been astonished, and I suspect, knowing what we do of him, he would have been absolutely delighted that tonight we have 6 women laureates to cheer our hearts. At an event not dissimilar to this in London last year, I ruthlessly stole a great line from Carol Ann Duffy when she said, "Women laureates, you wait 400 years and then 6 come along at once." What we're going to do now, I'm going to introduce the laureates one by one. They're going to read a Yeats poem each of their choice, and then they're going to recline gracefully on the seats behind me, and one at a time they will treat us to some poems of their own. So would you welcome, please, the young poet laureate for London, Aisling Fahy, Gillian Clarke, the national poet for Wales, Sinead Morrissey, first appointed laureate of the city of Belfast, Liz Lochhead, the Scottish Macker, Carol Ann Duffy, Poet Laureate of England, and Paula Mahan, the Ireland Professor of Poetry. And so, Aisling, if you would start the night for us with your choice of a Yeats poem, please.
The Lake Isle of Innisfree. I will arise and go now, and go to Innisfree, and a small cabin build there of clay and wattles made. 9 bean rows will I have there, a hive for the honey bee, and live alone in the bee-loud glade. And I shall have some peace there, for peace comes dropping slow, dropping from the vales of the morning to where the cricket sings. There, midnight's all a glimmer, and noon a purple glow, and evening full of the linnet's wings. I will arise and go now, for always night and day I hear lake water lapping with low sounds by the shore, while I stand on the roadway or on the pavement's grey. I hear it in the deep heart's core.
So now, please, the National Poet of Wales, Gillian Clarke.
Solomon and the Witch. And thus declared that Arab lady, last night, where under the wild moon on grassy mattress I had laid me, within my arms great Solomon, I suddenly cried out in a strange tongue, not his, not mine. Who understood whatever has been said, sighed, sung, howled, meowed, barked, brayed, belled, yelled, cried, crowed. Thereon replied a cockerel crew from a blossoming apple bough, 300 years before the fall, and never crew again till now. And would not now, but that he thought chance, being at one with choice at last, all that the brigand apple brought and this foul world were dead at last. He that crowed out eternity thought to have crowed it in again. For though love has a spider's eye to find out some appropriate pain, I, although all passions in the grants, for every nerve and tests a lover, with cruelties of choice and chance. And when at last that murder's over, maybe the bride bed brings despair, for each an imagined image brings, and finds a real image there. Yet the world ends when these two things, though several, are a single light, when oil and wick are burnt in one. Therefore, a blessed moon last night gave Sheba to her Solomon. Yet the world stays. If that be so, your cockerel found us in the wrong, although he thought it worth a crow. Maybe an image is too strong, or maybe it's not strong enough. The night has fallen, not a sound in the forbidden sacred grove, and let a petal hit the ground, nor any human sight within it, but the crushed grass where we have lain, and the moon is wilder every minute. O Solomon, let us try again.
And the sweet voice of Belfast, Sinead Morrissey.
The Circus Animals' Desertion. I sought a theme and sought for it in vain. I sought it daily for 6 weeks or so. Maybe at last, being but a broken man, I must be satisfied with my heart. Although winter and summer till old age began, my circus animals were all on show. Those stilted boys, that burnished chariot, lion and woman, and the Lord knows what. What can I but enumerate old themes? First, that sea rider Oisin led by the nose through 3 enchanted islands, allegorical dreams, vain gaiety, vain battle, vain repose, themes of the embittered heart, or so it seems, that might adorn old songs or courtly shows. But what cared I that set him on to ride, I starved for the bosom of his fairy bride? And then a counter-truth filled out its play. The Countess Kathleen was the name I gave it. She, pity-crazed, had given her soul away, but masterful heaven had intervened to save it. I thought my dear must her own soul destroy, so did fanaticism and hate enslave it. And this brought forth a dream, and soon enough, this dream itself had all my thought and love. And when the fool and blind man stole the bread, Cuchulainn fought the ungovernable sea. Heart mysteries there. And yet, when all is said, it was the dream itself enchanted me. Character isolated by a deed to engross the present and dominate memory. Players and painted stage took all my love, and not those things that they were emblems of. Those masterful images, because complete, grew in pure mind, but out of what began. A mound of refuse or the sweepings of a street, old kettles, old bottles and a broken can, old iron, old bones, old rags, that raving slut who keeps the till. Now that my ladder's gone, I must lie down where all the ladders start, in the foul rag and bone shop of the heart.
And now, the voice of Scotland, the Scottish macher, Liz Lochhead.
We're to say nothing but the title of the poem and and read the poem. But I want to say just one thing. Just one, to make you enjoy the poem better, so you'll know more what it's about. I've picked quite an obscure, comparatively obscure Yeats poem. And I've chosen it because a lover that I had about, best part of 40 years ago, the only lover I ever had who ever said poetry to me in bed, used to say it. And it's a poem, all I've got to tell you is it's a poem about a boy spoken by a boy on stilts. The poem is called High Talk. Processions that lack high stilts have nothing that catches the eye. What if my great-granddad had a pair that were 20 foot high and mine were but 15 foot? No modern stalks upon hire. Some rogue of the world stole them to patch up a fence or a fire. Because piebald ponies, lead bears, caged lions make but poor shows. Because children demand daddy long legs upon his timber toes. Because women in the upper stories demand a face at the pane that patching old heels they may shriek. I take to chisel and plane. Malachi stilt jack am I. Whatever I learned has run wild, from collar to collar, from stilt to stilt, from father to child. All metaphor, Malachi, stilts and all. A barnacle goose far up in the stretches of night, night splits and the dawn breaks loose. I, through the terrible novelty of light, stalk on, stalk on. Those great seahorses bare their teeth and laugh at the dawn.
And now, England's laureate and Ireland's well-beloved Caroline Duffy.
No one said my poem to me in bed. But there is still time. The Song of Wandering Angus. I went out to the hazelwood because a fire was in my head, and cut and peeled a hazel wand and hooked a berry to a thread. And when white moths were on the wing and, moth-like, stars were flickering out, I dropped the berry in a stream and caught a little silver trout. When I had laid it on the floor, I went to blow the fire aflame, but something rustled on the floor, and someone called me by my name. It had become a glimmering girl with apple blossom in her hair, who called me by my name and ran and faded through the brightening air. Though I am old, with wandering through hollow lands and hilly lands, I will find out where she has gone and kiss her lips and take her hands and walk among long dappled grass and pluck till time and times are done, the silver apples of the moon, the golden apples of the sun.
And to conclude this segment of the programme, the Ireland Professor of Poetry, Paula Mahan.
Easter 1916. I have met them at close of day, coming with vivid faces from counter or desk among grey 18th century houses. I have passed with a nod of the head or polite, meaningless words, or have lingered a while and said polite, meaningless words, and thought before I had done of a mocking tale or a jibe to please a companion around the fire at the club, knowing, being certain that they and I but lived where motley is worn. All changed utterly, a terrible beauty is born. That woman's days were spent in ignorant goodwill, her nights in argument until her voice grew shrill. What voice more sweet than hers when young and beautiful she rode to harriers? This man had kept a school and rode our winged horse. This other, his helper and friend, was coming into his force. He might have won fame in the end, so sensitive his nature seemed, so daring and sweet his thought. This other man I had dreamed a drunken, vain-glorious lout. He had done most bitter wrong to some who are near my heart, yet I number him in the song. He too has resigned his part in the casual comedy. He too has been changed in his turn, transformed utterly. A terrible beauty is born. Hearts with one purpose alone through summer and winter seem enchanted to a stone to trouble the living stream. The horse that comes from the road, the rider, the birds that range from cloud to tumbling cloud, minute by minute they change. A shadow of cloud on the stream changes minute by minute. A horse hoof slides on the brim and a horse plashes within it. The long-legged moor hens dive and hens to moorcocks call. Minute by minute they live, the stones in the midst of all. Too long a sacrifice can make a stone of the heart. Oh, when may it suffice? That is heaven's part. Our part to murmur name upon name as a mother names her child when sleep at last has come on limbs that had run wild. What is it but nightfall? No, no, not night, but death. Was it needless death after all? For England may keep faith for all that is done and said. We know their dream, enough to know they dreamed and are dead. And what if excess of love bewildered them till they died? I write it out in a verse, MacDonagh and MacBride and Connolly and Pearce, now and in time to be wherever green is worn, are changed utterly. A terrible beauty is born.